We are kicking off the show. Welcome everybody to the MPL After Hours, the show which shoutcasters from the MPL get to speak their mind and say what they want. I'm realizing that the double a quick test of the dual stream, it looks awful. The vertical side of things look real bad. I think I gotta lean more to the left. Yeah, there we go. That way, at least for anybody watching on the shorts, it will be a better time. But how are you all doing? Welcome to the MPL After Hours. This is going to be the first of many episodes. We did this last year to kind of get things going and actually have a conversation with the talents that you may see at MPL. This week, well, or at the very least, this past couple of months have been a little depressing. I will say that. A little depressing because a lot of weird issues. Honestly, I didn't think it was a problem until it kind of exploded. So that's why we're going to be talking about a lot of things here today that I am aware of. Initially, when I wanted to do the podcast again, I was thinking whether or not to get a guest, but after everything that has happened last week, I thought the best course of action would actually just to do this by myself. I don't want to get anybody else involved if I happen to say something bad or if I happen to ask my guest the question and they end up maybe revealing information, maybe not revealing any information about the sorts on the couple of topics that I'm going to bring up today. But most notoriously, the one that has happened within the past week happens to be with SRG. And that's the depressing part because there's a lot of parties who indirectly got involved when really it doesn't concern them. More importantly so, it's just a lot of the audience's backlash towards another topic as well, which brings us to what we're going to be talking about here today. Before we get into any of that, I want you guys to quickly go on over to the RRQ Shop because let me tell you, with RRQ Tora's entry into Malaysia, that's not the only business move that the kingdom is looking to do. They're trying to start their branch up here in Malaysia, whether it be their esports arm, but most importantly, their business side of things, the RRQ Shop. It's never been this easy to quickly get your funds to transferring into in-game currency and buying skins just like that. And if you guys haven't noticed, they were kind enough to give me an RRQ jersey, Tora jersey. That shit looks good. Now, at the beginning, of course, RRQ Tora started off pretty well, not doing so well in the league currently, so we're hoping for the best for them so they can pull it back. If you guys believe so, please use the promo code. If you happen to want to add up some more diamonds, use my code GideonQ at the RRQ Shop Malaysia to make it happen. You're going to get a bit of a discount. You're going to get 2% discount up to 4 ringgit worth of total discounts for any in-game item purchases or at the very least currencies that you want to purchase within the shop. With that out of the way, and once again, big shout outs to RRQ Tora and RRQ Shop MY for making this possible because now the podcast is going to be a little bit more consistent for the next couple of months. They were kind enough to pay us, but it doesn't change the fact that I am unbiased to the situation, whether it be RRQ, whether it be anybody else. I want to make this clear. I also want to make it clear for the Clippers out there, if they happen to stumble upon this and farm me for content, hey, don't forget to put my social media. That's number 1. 2, put the entire clip. At least give full context and an explanation as to what is going. And keep in mind that this is my own opinion. None of the things that I'm going to be saying here has been fact-checked, verified. A lot of it is merely speculation because I'm not too invested in this kind of drama. It really just goes to show the audience has a much bigger part to play here in the MPL that we would like to imagine for you guys are the consumers. Now, let's address. There are 3 main things I want to address here on this podcast here today, and hopefully I can do it before 45 minutes. Let me just quickly check my timer. We're already 4 minutes into this, so we've got at least 41 minutes to talk about all 3 of the important things here, and a conclusion at the end, of course. I tried to keep this all-encompassing for you guys, but let's start off by talking about the cram situation here in MPL MY. Sorry to interrupt your viewing experience, but as of this recording, this was streamed and recorded on the 7th of May. It is currently the 10th of May when I am recording this, and apparently more things have come out. But here we go. This is a statement coming in from Cram. He has apologized about the entire situation, but it still doesn't change much of my opinions about it. It doesn't reaffirm anything, and also the evidence evidence that has been thrown up there has been kind of speculative. So for all intents and purposes, I'm not going to blow this up bigger than it's supposed to be. He's given his apology, so take that as you will. These are still going to be my opinions prior to that anyways. I don't think anything has really changed. Yep, back to the video. For those of you who don't know, a big thing for those old viewers, we know about trash talking since the beginning of time. You know, this has happened in multiple MPLs. It's a bit of a controversy because within Southeast Asia, whether it be MPL PH or MPL PID, or even in Malaysia, we still follow a very similar set of rules. However, cultural contexts always need to be brought into place because we're Southeast Asia. It's three completely separate cultures with, you know, PH having a majority in the Catholic religion, Malaysia and as well as Indonesia. Indonesia, a bit of a split down the middle. You could be a Buddhist, you could be a Taoist, you could be kind of whatever you want there. But Malaysia specifically is a Islamic nation. It is, a Muslim nation, right? Vast majority are going to be Malays. Me, myself, as a Chinese Malaysian, I'm part of that minority. So you can understand where certain sentiments, if you live within Malaysia, why this is such a big deal. Now, most people aren't as whitewashed as me, so it's okay when I see, you know, professional esports players trash talking each other, whether it be on social media, whether it be on in-game. Personally, I think it is okay because at the end of the day, they are the athletes, and because you are not the one participating or at least battling, us as the viewer, battling in real time for money, for potentially whatever dream you have, they are the ones going on to the front lines. A bad comparison that I can make is to like soldiers, you know, when you are saluting them and saying thanks for your service, you can't really say much about the military because at the end of the day, it is those boys who put their lives on the line. Now, obviously, this is a very drastic comparison because in this particular case, I don't think any of the parties were really wrong in this situation. Like, Cram can say whatever he wants to, and obviously there's like a fine line of like being respectful and disrespectful, but at the end of the day, do these guys like each other? Doesn't matter to us. Whether there's actual animosity between Ye3 and as well as Cram, we'll never know. And if it actually is a problematic situation where Ye3 is like, I don't like the way this guy's talking to me, he can easily talk to the MPL officials, he can talk to his teams. There are multiple different layers to tell us how bad the situation actually is. But the problem is that we don't know until more evidence does come out. And there has been like a couple of things that have been showing up online in terms of like, death threats are being sent out to people. And let me tell you, I know something about death threats. I've definitely gotten death threats for something I've said, or at the very least people misunderstood a while back during SPS 2023, if I remember. Oh, sorry, 2024. That was a good year. Really, really good year for us as casters. But the point is, there's a lot of party members and there's a lot of information that we don't have to this context. We don't really know whether Cram really meant what he was trying to say. The same can be said about Ye3. And to be fair, he's coming back from Indonesia with this very short period of time with the boys at Geek Fam. And I think that was like an exciting time. I wish he could have stayed there longer, but it just seems that he, well, based on everything that we've seen so far, whether it be an MPL ID, whether it's something that you've heard online, he just wasn't up to snuff, or maybe there was something that he was lacking. If not, maybe a personal reason as to why he's coming back to MY. We don't know. We can't say that for sure, and I have no way to confirm any of these things because, frankly, I don't care. Whether or not Ye3 stays in Indonesia or not, that's up to him. He's got his own life choices. At the end of it, I respect it as an outside viewer. Because at the end of the day, I'm not the one who's going to be going up onto the stage and playing in his shoes. I'm not going to be in Cram's situation, right? So why is there such a big emphasis on the way that you hold yourself, therefore makes you responsible for the things that you say or do, right? Because where do we draw this line between whether it is trash talking for the sake of a show to make the audience, you guys watching this, more interested and more invested in the show, especially if you're not the, you know, how are they so good at a video game? How do they know the numbers of this? His mechanics are great, but he managed to pull something off that technically shouldn't be possible. If you're not that kind of person, then the drama is definitely going to boil your blood just a little bit more than the rest of these things. Now, given the context of the situation, I don't, I don't want to jump into information that I'm not 100% confirmed about. But until we get more information, all I can say is that if this was a bigger situation between Cram, Year 3, and Year 3, I think either Cram or even Year 3 probably would have said something to their supervisors if it was really bothering them. For now, we can only assume that this is friendly banter until we get more. But here is where it gets dangerous. And this is where I draw the line, because no matter what happens between Cram and Year 3, doesn't affect you guys, doesn't affect us as the viewer. Nobody's losing an arm or a leg over it. Nobody as the audience is getting death threats for it. But Year 3 and Rose are, and that's just not cool, because us as the audience, we are an outsider looking into a very niche thing. And no matter how close you want to be with this parasocial relationship, oh yeah, I'm protecting Year 3, so I'll send death threats to Cram. Oh yeah, I'm a fan of Cram, and therefore Year 3 is the one at fault, and even Rose is at fault, let's send them death threats. No, it doesn't make sense that Rose is involved in this in any capacity. She is a host. Her job is to ask the questions about how these teams are feeling. The way that Cram and Year 3 responds is up to them. But what sucks is that the audience had to make this so much bigger than necessary. And what do I mean by that? Right? Because the audience can make a lot of things bigger. More views, more ways for people to make money by going onto their YouTube or their social pages, right? I'm looking at things in a very business sense. And obviously the emotions are extremely high when you're a big fan, but it also goes to show the immaturity of the audience. That's what I feel, right? Because who in the right mind thinks that sending a death threat is really going to change anything? Because it's not. Your death threats mean little to nothing. And those who actually double down on the death threats are even more decrepit people, right? Like, think about it. If you were put in this situation, what do you do when the people involved aren't making it as big of a deal compared to the thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands of people going into their IGs and their DMs, fucking spamming them garbage? It is upsetting, to say the least, that this is what the audience response is. And based on what we've seen, the most that I can get off, and I can say confidently, is through Rose, the amount of hate she's getting just seems to be like unnecessary, right? And I've seen a lot of people even go back on, and mind you, this is coming from me, the guy who barely posts anything, the guy who has the lowest social numbers amongst all MPL talents out there. I'm working with RRQ Shop to get content out there, and I was really, really not happy having to do the MPL After Hours with a situation that could get other people involved and make their lives miserable. Think about that for a moment, right? Think about that. Most people don't care. Most people aren't inclined to care about the safety and livelihood of some of these people who just want to do their own thing, right? At the end of it, I do think that the audience is a large reason why this is such a shitty situation, right? Because again, a lot of the outlets are being heard from the POV of an audience. You did wrong. You deserve to die. You deserve to do all these things. No, we're doing our fucking jobs, and that's what's really annoying. And it doesn't help that the audience is interpreting this little debacle between Cram and Year 3 to be anything more than what it is, right? I'm not trying to downplay the situation if it does end up escalating to say, oh, who knows? I don't know. Year 3 might have done something bad. Who knows? Cram is the one who's like actively inciting the death threat. We don't know these things, and until I have that information, I can't say. So it's safer as the audience to not be an idiot and sending death threats to people. That's stupid. Like, who do you think? Do you think that there are no consequences? You're just lucky that the people, the 3 names mentioned, are kind enough not to go out of their way to get law enforcement involved, because it's very easy to get law enforcement involved, especially when it's here in Malaysia, especially when you have enough online presence as well, where no matter what you say, what you do, it's going to be recorded some shape or form, so it will be out there. Please, I beg you, the audience, let's be a little bit more mature about this, because this is not the only thing that I want to just rag on you guys for. And the audience is a very large reason why the MPL is. Now, this is going to be an overarching topic. Remember, the situations that are happening here in the MPL MY, or at the very least in other MPLs, like the biased situation when it comes down to MPL ID casters, right? All of it comes from you guys, the audience, and how you perceive the show, us as the talents, and as employees of an employer, in this case MPL, to do our jobs. And I need you guys to understand that in doing our jobs, we're gonna have to say something you don't like, and there's a reason behind it, right? All of the things that we do, our casting techniques, anything that works on social media, we have to take advantage of everything to make sure that the MPL stays relevant and stays alive. So when you guys are like, why are you saying this? Why are you putting them in a negative light? Because we always have to evolve. And this is my personal opinion, right? Not everybody agrees with this necessarily, but I feel like there are two sides to everything, right? As much as one person makes a great play, the other person could have made a mistake. That's what it all lines up to, right? And it's important to have the facts and logic to slowly break down the problem and figure out where exactly we can take advantage so that we get better numbers, more viewership, and the bare minimum, you guys are interested, right? And that's the thing. Your interest is such a delicious currency. It's a delicious, valuable thing that everybody across the world wants. I want it, of course. I want to be able to make more money. And how do I do that? More viewership, more numbers. What could I say to make sure that I get those things? I could be hyper controversial. I don't mind getting death threats because at the very least, I know that I am confident enough to deal with a lot of hate online, which I've already done. But that doesn't really change my circumstance. So I gotta be, borderline, like enough to get a reaction, but not enough to get sued for it. If people who are in this industry will understand. Now, the reason why we want your attention of all these sorts is so that we can generate money and make sure that this league stays along. And I feel like we are in a weird point in the generational gap. Let me explain. So when I'm doing esports, and especially in my time of esports, 10 years back, so I'm 29 this year, so 10 years back, I would have been 19, right? And therefore, I was already in the last leg of the previous generation's rise to esports. So this is the League of Legends, this is the Dotas, this is the CSs, all of this it was the wild, wild west out here. There was no structure whatsoever. You play because you love that game and you love competition. Note, I use the word competition here. And it's really important that you focus on this emphasis because a majority of players did not come into this with the mindset of, I'm going to go pro one day. Not even a dream. It's either I'm the best player or there is nothing. Professionalism didn't even come into the question. So it really hurts my heart to see in the past couple of weeks that the MAL had so many complaints. Now, the MAL is the Malaysian version of the MDL. We just have a bright new name for it. It's basically the MDL, right? Our tier 2 set of players who at this point might never get to see the light of day in playing in an MPL arena, considering a couple of things. Now, you as the audience will have your own opinions, but keep in mind, I wasn't too happy with not only the response, but also the attitude of the MAL complaints. All right, here's where I'm coming from, right? In the MAL, there was a lot of comments of like, oh, why aren't these teams getting better? We've given them an environment 3 days on an off period so that anybody who's invested in the MPL can watch the MAL to see the up and coming rising stars. And then you hear the things that some of these casters are saying, and I don't want to put them down, but at the same time, it really hurts to hear just the lack of information that they're talking about, or at the very least, really not setting the baseline, which is my major problem, right? Let us not say that Alucard is going to be the baseline for 90% of these teams, that Mincitar is supposed to be a all-in-one use. The Freyas can be played in every single role. There is purpose, there is information, and that is something that I have a gripe with the casters not elaborating, or or at the very least presenting the information to understand what that baseline is. Now, that's a me personal thing, right? I have no ill will towards any of the casters there. It's just something that irks me because I've been doing this for such a long time, and it's the general advice I would give to people in their position. I mean, there's other issues as well, but I'm trying to stay on topic and keep this within 40 minutes, so I'll keep it short. Now, the other complaints that I've had with the MAL is just the quality of their games are god awful. It's just, what am I watching? Like, it is such a waste of time to watch because there's so little to learn, and there is a lack of polish. I have to say, and technically, maybe I'm being overly critical. The lack of polish is not necessarily a bad thing for their only tier 2. But what really strikes a chord with me is when they don't understand the fundamentals of the MOBA game or the MOBA genre, right? Like, what are we doing? You see somebody dash in front of you, you know that's his only dash. We punish. Why are we wasting time not punishing this? Other things like wave management, I mean, I could go on forever, but essentially the MAL isn't what they chalk it up to be, right? I learned nothing from this. This is not something that I go out of my way to research and do, and then they complain, why doesn't anybody watch the MAL? Why isn't the MAL getting enough support? Why are there no funds within the MAL to do what they want to do? And I have an answer for each and every single one of their questions, because take it as a businessman, right? You want to make money off of esports. This is your one and only time. You've got 10 million, you've got Falcon money. You know what? Team Falcon money, you've got an unlimited source. It never ends. What are you going to do with that money? Because inevitably, you're going to have to pay for a lot of things, but you also need to make enough to be able to pay the costs so that you can come up with a net profit, right? Because with a net profit, you can look for new players, you can increase the salaries, you can make the facilities better. Money allows you to do a lot of things. And how do you generate that revenue? Well, a lot of it comes down to the fans, especially when it comes down to esports, because I don't think anybody has really cracked the code on this yet. Some people have tried crypto, and that, varying degrees of success for international organizations. Not all of them did as well as some. You know, TSM really shit the bed because of that. So that is another legitimate concern, or at least a concern for tier 2 players coming in. Like, do you have gambling sponsors? Like, let's have a little bit of a mind to this, right? Oh wow, I get incredible pay. They've got a gambling sponsor. Do I want to associate myself with that? If you are willing to make that decision and sleep with it, I got nothing to say to you. I'm like, all right, if you're willing to handle the consequences, I am totally fine. But that does not give you an excuse to be playing bad. That does not give an excuse. Let me correct myself. Not playing bad, just with no fundamentals whatsoever. Just not taking it as seriously. And you can see the attitude difference between the MPL levels of players and the MAL. And what's even crazier is between the MPL and MAL players, there's one more set of breed players above all that who truly loves the competition and will sacrifice anything to make that happen, which is a big ask that not everybody wins on their roll down. Or in this case, their gamble of a 50% chance that we win MSC at EWC and become millionaires, and 50% we don't get anywhere close, and I wasted 6 months of my life, if not arguably 7 months, because EWC is like roughly 2 months. It's June and July, somewhere between June to August, right? Like a rough 3 and 2.5 month period, right? Huge amount of time investment. How can me, as a guy with infinite money, want to support an MAL team when the players don't play with fundamentals? They complain about not enough support, but what are they really asking? What are these kids actually asking? They say, I want support. What is that figure? Is it $200? Is $100? What's enough? What is considered enough? What is the McDonald's salary of an esports player? And I can guarantee you, most people won't be able to tell you that. And I'll tell you right now, there is no base salary. This is a risk. This is competition. Welcome to the real world, right? Unfortunately, for a lot of these younger kiddos, the biggest mistakes that I see when they enter the MAL is, one, they don't take it seriously. And that really pisses me off. But that's fine. Hey, to some degree, they have skill, and that's why some of these teams are picking them up. I cannot necessarily get behind the decision, but hey, at the very least, it's still doing what the Tier 2 was meant to do, and that's to build up these younger players. When they say that there's not enough support, all I have to say is you wouldn't even have the opportunity to make it into the MPL if you don't have something to show. Let's think about that for a moment. Let's have something to show. When you are scouting these players, what do you look for? And then when I look at the MAL, do I really want these players compared to if I look over to the MDL? Now, that obviously this is perspective of, ooh, the grass is greener on the other side. Ooh, so green, grass green, very nice, so good. The problem with that is that even within outside our borders, there are issues. And I don't want to talk about those issues this time around because, again, not enough evidence to give the confirmation. It is all speculation. But I can talk about the things that I do know about. And the worst part is that these young players not only, and it's hard to break out of this like mindset of they don't support us enough, nobody watches the MAL anyways, I'm just gonna bide my time until I have an opportunity, or I know somebody who knows somebody to get me into that main team, or at least put my name out there, right? All of that goes down the drain when they sign a shit contract. And that is by far the worst. This is something that truly makes me angry. And there is nothing I can do about this because all the parties involved haven't done a very good job. And they also kind of don't have an answer to the problem, right? Let me tell you let me explain what I'm talking about. When you sign a professional as a professional player to an organization, there's multiple different clauses of which you need to fulfill. Sometimes it'll say this will be your base pay, and then certain conditions. If you do well in scrims, maybe you get a bonus. Again, all of this is speculation, right? But I'm trying to give you a little bit of an idea of how they kind of set the structure. I can't say exactly how they set the structure because it's different amongst every team, but that's the thing. There's no direct format to this, right? Just keep in mind that the most annoying clause is the fact that they own your ass. I mean, I'm sorry for straight, but they own you, right? You cannot play for any other team while you are contracted. You cannot you must be loaned out if you want to play with another team. And unfortunately, when you get loaned out, that other team has to pay the remaining salary, or if not more, to your original team that you signed up for. So you're basically just an asset cash cow. And they're never going to buy. I mean, sure, your buyout is going to be at a ridiculous price so that other organizations aren't willing to actually pay that price and are more willing to pay for just loaning the player anyways. It's business. It's business. You want the best team possible? Well, guess what? They've all been monopolized. So therefore, it's either you go out of your way to spend 2 years of your time and money to try and build up these players, which you might not see a return of investment on. They might get loaned out and do better elsewhere, right? That's why imports are a thing. Think about it. No matter what, the MAL complaints is cut in half, and the internet, especially amongst local Malaysians, have been split in half as well. One half is saying that the MAL is dog shit, we shouldn't bother, we should let them die. We should let them die until they change their attitudes. The other side is saying that, hey, clearly there isn't enough support. There is no incentive to play to begin with, so therefore, why are we being so harsh on the tier 2s? And I think that's like a really interesting sentiment to have, right? Coach Rain also was talking about this. He's on the positive side of like, let's not harp on these players. This is supposed to be an environment where they're allowed to do something like that. And I will agree to a certain point. I agree this is supposed to be a place where the MAL is supposed to be a place to showcase ability. That I can agree with. What I don't agree with is what they're showing with on the screen. I think that a lot of that stuff, that's scrim-worthy stuff, right? If we are going to show a good play of the game and things like that, that means your team has to be a certain degree prepared. Where are the set plays? Where is the adaptations? Where is the way to polish up a lineup that works? GMXK has done this before. We've seen many other MAL teams move into the MPL while there were still opportunities to do that. And even then, we could see a very stark difference with very few success cases. Take Siska for an example, right? Even Keeman to a certain degree. Keeman obviously didn't get picked up for this particular year, but everybody wanted Siska. Part of an MAL team, he eventually joins the MPL, people liked that showcase more than the entire MAL run. And I was hearing from Sunfrost while he was still coaching Siska at that point of time. He's an absolute fucking monster. And I didn't see it until we get to see it during MPL. And that, man, how can you not feel just a little bit upset? It took him that long to get into the MPL. He had to climb all his way through the MAL. He had to decline multiple offers, I would assume. Because if he's doing that well in the MAL and other teams are noticing, then hey, he could have had a pretty good paycheck of his own. Either way, this is not the attitude. Yes, I agree that we should be less harsh on the T2, but I also think that the T2 or MAL in this case really needs to buck the fuck up. Like, what do we? Just because there's like a potential international tournament for T2 doesn't mean you're the best in the world. It could mean that you could be playing for money, and arguably there might be teams who decide, hey, actually it's way easier to qualify and go to internationals through the Tier 2 system rather than the Tier 1 system where every best player has been monopolized. The MAL is going to be it's something I'm keeping my eyes on. I don't want to get too involved yet until it actually gets to the brink of it imploding on itself. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point, because I still think that there is need for an MAL. I just think that the attitude of a lot of people doing the MAL is just so wrong. It's so wrong because in a time where you have access to really fast internet on top of a potential salary, on top of a potential place to live, on top of a place to eat food. How crazy is that? A majority of Malaysian professional players didn't even have a gaming house. They didn't even have a gaming house. Ask Azoroveki. How lucky do you think he is? And you might be saying like, oh, he's super lucky. He's got all these privileges. He used to be an esports player, so he knows the ins and outs. Yeah, but you also don't know that he sacrificed a good chunk of his life for the sake of the next generation who may or may not achieve his dreams before he could achieve his own. He's living life precariously through SRG, even though he had the mechanics, the brains to be the best player in the world. That is sacrifice. That is a mentality that most people don't have anymore. And that is why I vibe with the older generation of esports players than our young esports players now, because they're just not hungry enough. They're just not hungry enough anymore. You see 1 year of hunger from them, they get a little comfy, and unfortunately, MLBB is a young man's sports. Once they're out of biz, man. You gotta hope that being a content creator is gonna be enough to get you through the rest of your life, because MPL is only gonna be a very short period. Take Sasa for an example, right? If he was doing so darn well, why does he need MPL? Used to be part of the Kages. You think he wasn't getting paid the big dough, the big bucks? He was winning major tournaments across the world during his generation, the peak generation of Indonesian MLBB. Right? My final consensus on the matter is that MAL needs to change their attitudes. In terms of what that support is, what does that mean? And I need an answer for that. How much is enough for these players who hasn't even gotten out of high school, some of them? I ain't paying shit for these kids. No, I will pay for your food, your transport, and I expect you to play a good game, and you can take a portion of the prize money. I ain't fucking, hell no, on somebody that I don't know is gonna carry me all the way. Like, really, how can you have such blind confidence? There's no way. There's just no way. There's no way, and I think that until we start changing minds and we have more success cases from the MAL, that's the only time where we're really gonna see major change. And until then, I'm more than happy to wait, but I refuse to watch the MAL until they actually get better at the game, because unfortunately, I don't have enough time, and I might as well consume the latest and greatest tech in MPL ID or MPL PH, or arguably even Thailand. MSL Thailand has been pretty interesting, and arguably, they have stronger fundamentals than the MAL, despite the MAL having the better mechanics. Why? I don't know. Don't look at me. I don't have the right answers. It's just a personal opinion, right? You can hate me for it. You can love me for it. I do not care. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about for the MPL After Hours, as I only have a bit of time left, the fine line of esports as a sport or as sports entertainment. Are we the WWE of esports, or are we an actual major here? And I think that's a very interesting conversation to have, because one, we're a part of an esport on a device that, for a majority of esports' entire history, has been played on a PC. Only in recent times have mobile games actually come into the space, and arguably mobile games are younger gamers compared to the old heads who still play on PC. Obviously, there's a hybrid of the two. There's like a little generation that's the in between of having a phone and having a PC at the same time. But we're getting older. That generation was me, and we're hitting 30. It fucking sucks. It fucking sucks that we're hitting 30. Some of them are 26 and 27, mid 20s, right? They're young, and because they're young, they can do what they want. And I think that out of all the topics that we've talked about here, whether it be the MAL, whether it be the cram situation, the audience needs to figure out, are you watching this because these are the best players, or are you watching this for entertainment? And if you are the kind who is watching it for entertainment, take it as entertainment. There's literally nothing wrong watching it as a sport or as entertainment. I have no issues with that. My issues is when there's a lot of barking. A lot of like, why are you getting involved in things that don't matter to you at the end of the day? Like, what does this do? Oh, my feelings are hurt. Oh no. I'm such an empath. Whatever SRG feels, I feel too. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't feel nothing. You just feel stressed for them, even though that it's not your livelihood on the line. If we change this into gladiatorial combat, are you still gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna take his death threat seriously because instead of using a mobile phone, he has a sword and a shield and he has to fight to the death in an arena on the sand amongst 5 other guys, right? Such a stark comparison. Why can't we just enjoy the esports as a product of entertainment or a product of sports? If I wanted to know more about the sport, I would just listen to the cast. 90% of the time, we're pretty accurate on what we're talking about. The other 10% of the time, we're probably talking some mad shit to buy time. If I'm being completely honest, that's probably the situation. But it's a combination of these things, of riding that line, of being able to give you just enough to present the facts to educate the audience while still maintaining your attention throughout the stream. And for us as casters, that's our whole job, right? That's our whole job, is this one line, the fine line of esports and sports entertainment. Because no matter who you are as the audience, my goal is to get you to look at the show or maybe even listen to the show. And that's kind of the whole point. But I don't want to do that if people aren't like feeling safe in their own skin. People have to worry about walking out in public in case, oh, you know, if Ye3 walks out in public and an SRG fan comes by and they start causing shit. Like, come on, dude. It's an esport. Let's just have a little bit of fun with it. Trolling is okay. The death threats, no. Let's stop with that. Let's stop getting IGs banned here. Let's stop taking away livelihood from people. Because who are we? When did we become so entitled in this parasocial relationship? I'll tell you right now. People who are throwing death threats, I'm pretty sure they don't know Cram as a person. They probably don't even know his history. How many of these guys actually watch the documentary to see what Cram's life is and why he holds himself to a certain standard, or at the very least, why he's so thuggish, you know? Why he's like, you can tell by the way that he like scratches his head, winks his brow. He has experience in the streets, and it is clear that he's pulled himself out of that situation. So what I don't understand is why the audience is so vocal about something that I don't think Cram or Ye3 cares about that much. And if evidence comes out later down the line, I'm more than happy to admit I am wrong. But until I see a police report or something like tangible, I think it's the audience who are being weird. Also, while I was doing a little bit of research on this to make sure that I got at least what I can and cannot talk about, the fact that it feels bad because this is the second host that we've had. Oh wait, actually no, this is the third host actually. The third host who's actually received death threats. Fira received a lot of hate whether there's controversy or not. And I think there was like one weird situation where a guy was being creep and he had a wife. So that was a really fun situation to be through with her. Good times, good times. Who's the other one? Sajana also got a lot of hate as a guest host, even though she was like a contestant for Miss Universe. So I don't know how anybody can hate a person of that caliber. Literally, like a model, a supermodel walking. Like I don't know how people can send her hate. It's crazy. And then now Rose. So pretty much every host we've had has received a shit amount of hate, and I'm tired of it. I'm really, really tired of it. I'm tired of the audience thinking that they are so entitled to this, because as easily as you love the show, it can easily not air. You know, Muntan doesn't have to spend money if this is the shit they have to deal with every single time, because us as the audience can't just hunker down and think for half a second. Because this is leading up to bigger issues, right? And luckily, we haven't gotten to that point, but I think this is what a total of 3 times that a potential fight could have broke out because of, you know, big fan bases. It used to be Homeboys and SRG, then even JP9 is getting involved because, you know, because, you know, Selangor is a state. JP9 is also a state. Clash of football ideologies, and, you know, people might get into a fight, and that's just not cool. Let's just make this a safe place. Remember, as adults, this is for kids. This is to take them away from all the bad things that are happening in the world. More people are interested in CS in the Strait of goddamn Hormuz at this point, just because of the Shanghai major, if not the other majors that have happened, right? Esports takes us away from these hard and tough times, and I hope that esports will always stay that way. That it's like this special little place that everybody can just nerd out for a second and be like, yeah, I love this player. He's got great mechanics. Here's why. Here's why I'm invested. I had one interaction with him. It was great. As the audience, this needs to be treated as a show. You're not really friends with these professional players. They don't really know you. They'll thank you because they have to, but they're not your friends. They're not your friends. Hosts, we try to be as nice to everybody as possible, but you'll never really know the full story until we get more evidence. Until then, I have 2 important questions that I wanted to ask everybody as a way to kind of wrap this up, right? A lot of things were talked about here, but let's first think about what kind of show do we want MPL MY, and let's extend it further, right? Instead of just MPL MY, what about the internationals? How do we want it to feel and look like as an audience member? Do you want people to be a little bit more vocal in the types of content that they actually share? At us as casters, how can we deliver you something that actually wants to make you stick to your screen rather than just the gameplay? Because sometimes there's shit gameplay, and there's nothing you can do about it other than criticize it, especially at an international level. How would you like us to handle that? How do you want people to feel sitting in the crowd and watching these shows? Do they want to feel like, yes, this is amazing, that everybody can feel hyped? Or half of the stadium, if not 2/3 of the stadium, is going to be against your team, and every single time you show support, you're going to get spat on? Which would you prefer? Last question I have is, what are we as the audience entitled to? And I think here are the things that you are allowed as the audience, right? Without saying, you get to express your mind for free. And that's part of your privilege, sure. Do I wish it wasn't so negative? Yeah, of course I wish it wasn't so negative sometimes, but sometimes people need that. But that doesn't give an excuse to send death threats. It also doesn't give you an excuse to stalk them. It doesn't give you an excuse to be a little creep. It doesn't give you an excuse being an undeserving little shit, as if you expect their time to be yours because you decided to put some attention to it. I want to keep you guys in check here. Let's stay close to reality because there's a lot of shit going on in the real world, and I think that right now, let's try and keep esports sacred, right? We don't want to show animosity. We don't want to show hate. Let us not do a couple of things. Let's not send death threats to people. Easy. I don't know why I have to state that, but apparently you have to. 2, don't fuck with the show. Stop trying to go up on the stage. Stop trying to get in the way of the host. Stop trying to stop getting in the way of the goddamn show. I've seen too many times where the cameraman has had 4 to 5 near misses within the past couple of weeks on exciting days. So please, the cameramen have nothing to do with this situation. And finally, quit. Why? Let's calm down, SRG fans. Let's calm down for a second. Rose did nothing wrong. She's doing her job. You can't get angry. You can't get angry at the lawyer defending defending, the potential enemy of state, because he's doing his fucking job. He's just trying to make a fair argument on either side. And Rose, she just has to present the questions. And then the next problem is that if people in the comment are like, why didn't MPL really quote the questions, say the questions properly? How could they not engineered and not seen this coming? Well, who knew that Cram was gonna say that? I didn't know that Cram was gonna say that. I was at home being chilling, and all this happened on my break day, which was pretty fucking annoying. Either ways, this has been a bit of a depressing MPL After Hours, but it's the place where at least casters from the MPL get the chit-chat. This time, I didn't want to get anybody involved, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, but hey, this is just 46 seconds of the MPL After Hours. Thank you so much for watching the show. And once again, go check out RRQ Shop Malaysia. Use the code GideonQ in case you want to get the new Layla skin. Whoa! Look here! That's the sick new skin! Oh, Leslie, so fun! Wow, wow, great. Thank you. To those of you who still stuck around, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next stream.